The minute I snapped the picture, the thing stopped groaning and swiveled its head toward me. All the Gristers did, in fact. They all started hissing and screaming at me a horrible fucking sound, like rusty nails on a chalkboard. I was thoroughly freaked out. To put things mildly, I lost my shit. I ran out of there as fast as I could, ran all the way home. Gristers didn't seem so harmless to me now. That noise that they made was straight out of hell. I didn't feel safe with the lights on anymore. I flipped all the lights on, scaring the shit out of my napping cat. I slammed the bathroom door shut and stuffed a blanket around the cracks again. Then I sat on my bed and looked at the picture I had taken. There it was, clear as day, the huge Grister. Just looking at it made me feel sick. Of course, I was going to post it on X. I loaded it onto my computer and sent an email to John with the excited subject, "Will you look at this fat fuck?" Then I immediately came to X and began typing up my thread, explaining myself, explaining the Gristers, explaining the photograph. I was just getting ready to post it when John sent me a message. "You don't show this shit to anyone." I stopped. I replied to John, asking him what he was talking about. He told me. He said that he thought he'd figured out what was making the Gristers around him more hostile. He said that he thought that when they figured out that you could see them, they started getting more aggressive. He showed me scratches he had all down his arm from them clawing at him at night. He said that he'd seen a lot more of the bigger ones hanging around his house at night. They watched him through the windows. They knew he could see them, and they didn't like it. And now I was pretty sure they knew I could see them too. So what did I do? In the end, I didn't post the picture. I wasn't too intimidated, but it probably saved a lot of you. I didn't want to trigger anyone else into being able to see these guys if it had dangerous consequences down the road. I didn't notice any behavior change right away. For a while, in fact, for about 2 weeks, the Gristers acted just the same as they had before. I was beginning to think that John's problem was his own thing, and that the Gristers didn't know or care that I could see them. And then things started happening so fast. I woke up one night, there were 4 of them just perched around my bed, staring at me. I freaked the fuck out and swept them all away, and they just hissed that terrible noise and ran away. I emailed this to John, who I hadn't talked to otherwise. He didn't respond. We hadn't talked a lot since I told him about the picture, and even rarely before then. After 2 days, during which the Gristers began touching me in my sleep, I got an answer. John was dead. His brother had the password to his email and was letting all his internet acquaintances know. He had committed suicide, sliced open his wrist in the bathtub. John didn't seem like the type to commit suicide to me. He had things with the Gristers really gotten that badly that they drove him to do that. We really didn't know each other well, but he hadn't mentioned anything to me. His brother said that he'd left a note. I gave him my condolences. His brother said that he hadn't left the note. I gave him my condolences. Now I had no one to talk to about this. I started looking online for more references or anything. All the while, the Gristers were getting more and more aggressive. I'd look over my shoulder, and there'd be 1 or 2 in the windowsill, just staring at me. One time, I opened the door to my apartment. I live on the 3rd floor, and there was one about the size of a large dog staggering around at the bottom of the stairwell, pale face flashing in and out of the darkness, baring its teeth in a growl at me, pale limbs flashing as it bounded up the stairs. I slammed my door shut. I didn't go to work that day. Then I saw it on the news. That house that I had seen the fat-ass Grister at, I would have skipped right past the news story had I not seen the picture of the house. The article was titled, 8 Found Dead, 3 Alive, Rape Dungeon Raid. Apparently some sick fuck had been using the basement of one of those abandoned houses as a place to keep women prisoner, and kill them when they felt like it. It was a terrible fucking story, but one of the things one of the survivors said really struck me. We were just so terrified all the time. We never knew when he was going to come in and decide to kill one of us, when he was going to really hurt us while raping us. We were just so terrified all the time. And the Gristers had been all over that place. And when I first saw one, I'd been reading creepypasta and pretty freaked out. Same for John. Were these things drawn to fear? Then I read that 2 of these survivors were being sent to a mental hospital for hallucinations. Did they see the Gristers? I stopped sleeping. I didn't want to wake up to those things staring at me. I stopped eating too. Whenever I wasn't at work, which was more often than not, more often, as I called out many times when I saw really big gristers, bigger than a cat, sniffing around my building for me. I was locked in my room trying to hunt for the information on the internet about these things. I just couldn't find anyone who had actually seen them. The gristers were getting more violent. They were starting to scratch me and bite me in those few scant hours that I actually did not have to sleep. I'd always freak out and sweep them away, and they'd just hiss at me. After about a week of this, I came home and found my cat dead. They had peeled the skin away from her skull, giving her a look of shock. I quit my job. I cried for days. X, I don't have many friends, and I really love that cat. They're not stupid, X. They don't talk, and they act differently from us, but they do have intelligence. I went out for food last week. It was the last time I will ever go out. I was sitting at the downstairs bus station, shivering, looking all around me for gristers. When the bus approached, I got up to get on. Out of nowhere, a grister the size of a normal human just bent over and walking their weird, loping gait, slammed into the back of the woman sitting next to me and threw her in front of the bus. She had no chance. I saw her slide under the wheels of the bus, saw her blood and ruined organs squeezed out of her mouth like toothpaste. Everyone freaked out and panicked. As people rushed to her aid, the grister turned around at me and grinned. I dropped my groceries and screamed, running back to my house, sobbing all the way. They're toying with me. And that's when I finally realized that there wasn't anyone I could really talk to about the gristers. X, how many times when people commit suicide do you hear it reported that they were suffering from hallucinations? Read the reports of people who have been in terrible, frightening situations, like that rape dungeon, or a war. How many of them suffering from hallucinations? Sure, a lot of them are actual hallucinations. Some of them are gristers. And even eventually they figure out that you can see them, and they start fucking with you. And I don't think everyone who they kill is driven to suicide. I don't think John committed suicide. I think they're smart. I think they know how to make something look like a suicide. You'll hear about it sometimes. You'll read in a report how someone committed suicide, but something just isn't quite right about it. Like a man who went out and bought a new couch, then cut his wrists on it. And X, I'm convinced that there was nothing special about me and John. I don't think there's anything special about anyone who sees these things. I think you're just more likely to see them when you're really scared, since that's when they're drawn to you. I can hear them right now. It's about 3 in the morning. It sounds like a really big one is outside of my apartment door. Sounds like it's trying to gnaw its way through the wood, and so I'm taking the easy way out. I'd rather have a nice sharp knife slice my arms open than have my skin torn by those teeth. So please, this is my warning to you. Stop reading creepypasta. I know you love it. I know you love frightening yourself, but you've got to stop. Every time you read it, every time you get that feeling of dread in your stomach, you're drawing the gristers to you. And if you don't stop reading, at least, please, never check out those sounds in the house when you do.